So just back to our posture, our standing. Yeah, so we're just trying to reduce the curvature of the lower back so that the lower back can feel as though it's extending down into a point between our legs. So I taught someone in the park, the big park in Tel Aviv last week, and there's loads of Tai Chi groups here, but there was one group doing riding horse, and they were literally like this, you know, thighs parallel to the ground. But so we're more concerned with the spine than the strength in the legs. Yeah. So it's just how relaxed you can get that flow down the spine. So the cardinal sin in our Tai Chi is sticking the bum out. Allowing your tail and sacrum to project backwards. Yeah. When you get it right, there's a real sense that you're stacking down onto your sacrum. The spine almost sort of collapses. It's almost like the space between each vertebra collapses a little bit. So it's a real sort of, it's a Chinese posture, really. When I was in China, a lot of them were like that. And in a sense, it comes from having a life that's undistracted. You know, when you're distracted, you're always in two minds. You're never quite sure which one to decide. Yeah. As the Chinese, they're just in the ground and of the ground. So they look really planted, rooted. They have a natural root. Yeah. So a lot of the things that Tai Chi deals with, the Chinese just have them naturally, the peasant Chinese, not the educated ones. So our education gives us choices and distractions which make it impossible to quieten the mind. There's something John said to me early on. He said you have to find principles that you really feel work for you and that you can really believe in and put your trust in, and just stack them one on top of the other like your spine, and just obey them religiously. You know, never break them. Yeah. Yeah, so when you get it right, it's almost like the legs are driving the hips up and gravity is driving the shoulders down. So it's like the space between the shoulders and the hips is really small. Yeah, so when you move the hip, the shoulder moves as well, completely. So standing like a tree. Okay. And now let's just turn it. Let's just try this one just to warm up. Yeah, so try to have the mind in the Dantian, Minmeng sacrum area rather than in the head. If the mind is in the head, it will be looking down and pulling the head forwards and pushing the bum back. You want the sense that you're already down here and you're turning about that central axis in the sacrum. Yes, if you have an inclination to look down, then your posture's wrong. Things are looking up. Things are getting better. So just enjoy the sensation of pure movement. And just feel what happens when you turn. You know, there's a centrifugal force that throws the arms out, but there's also a lift. So the centrifugal force doesn't just throw things away from the center, it throws things up. Yeah, so it sort of counters gravity. And it's not just the body that's thrown up, it's the spirit. So there's something about turning that lifts the spirit. And this is why it's so important, especially in John's Tai Chi. And then just feel the breathing, just become aware of the breathing. So the bridge between the body and the mind. let's just bring it back. So back to the relaxing sacrum. So the top of the sacrum and the bottom vertebra are vertical, which generally means you lean back a little bit. Okay, now just feel the central axis through that vertical part. And now we just really want to just turn around it. Yeah, so just turn slowly. Yeah. And just feel how this turning is quite different from the previous one. As the previous one, we were just basically using a coarse turn to throw the arms around. So this one, we're really turning from that central place and just really trying to just relax the thighs so that the hips can stay level, which is what they want to, because it's the most efficient way. Yeah, so when we're going slow, it's very much meditation. Yeah? So there's a sense that your mind is watching the movement and attending to it, making sure it's correct, but there's another part of you that's watching the mind. And just extending the range. Try not to move that vertical axis side to side, so just turn about it. And just twist a little bit further each time. So you'd be surprised how far around the waist can go, the hips can go, when the legs are relaxed, and the hip joints and the legs are relaxed. Okay, and then back to the front. Just make sure this is... Now, whenever we do anything, the sacrum will tend to tense up. And so you just, when you come back, you just let it hang. Okay, now let's just breathe. So just a bit of Qigong. So just breathing in and out. So extending the spine a little bit and flexing the spine. So the spine is breathing, it's not just the lungs. And then just reduce the size. So breathe through the mouth and just make a small hole. So you really feel the belly having to work. Yeah, so here. Yeah, so when you restrict the breathing, it sort of forces the abdominal muscles to come in. So they come in the same way. If you're like running, you're sort of fighting for breath, fighting to get enough oxygen into your system. Then your belly would be quite tight. You can't run with a flabby belly. So the most important thing for the martial artist is to be ready, is to be perennially ready. And that requires a tone in the belly, basically. And then just reverse the breathing. So breathe in as you pull in. Now you're with the qi. You're drawing qi into the body. And then you're letting it out. Breathing in. Out. And then just bringing it back again, so sacrum dangling. Yeah, so remember to get this lower part, the sacrum and the coccyx right, it's quite tricky because you've got to pull, it's like you've got to pull your tail under to get the top of the sacrum vertical, but then you've got to push your tail back to get the coccyx to unravel. Yeah, so it's not as simple as it seems. But it's really all relaxation. If you just relax in time, it'll feel as though it's straightening. Whether it does or not, I don't know. Yeah, so the important thing really is that, you know, when you get this part right, it just quietens the mind. You can feel there's like a layer of tension that just flows down with this straightening. So the anxiety is lessened by the good posture. And this is why it's so important to get it from relaxation, because if you just force, if you add attention to a tense posture in order to give the appearance of correctness, it won't do anything to this. It'll make this worse. Yeah. So that's, you know, when I was with John, basically I was so anxious about pleasing the teacher that's all my Tai Chi was. It was one tension on top of another one in order to keep him happy. Yeah. And it's only since coming here, you know, getting to Israel and realizing I had nothing and having to build it all up again. So that's just a process. When you're with a teacher for a certain amount of time, he gives you certain things, you completely misinterpret them, you get it all completely wrong, and then you go your own way and have to work it all out for yourself. And we can't not get it wrong, because we don't have the maturity to get it right, And that maturity just comes from solo practice, There's a beautiful phrase I found in one of the Tibetans, practice is personal, It's nothing to do with anyone else, it's your business, it's you. Remember that phrase that John would always say, what you do in the privacy of your own boudoir is your concern. That's your practice, Coming to class is not practice. Teaching is not practice. Okay, Let's bring the feet up a bit. So we're more like a sort of a stick sticking in the ground. And again, just make sure this is pretty much the same as it was, the spine. Yeah? And now let's just try the heart. So again, with the breath, breathing in and then breathing out, breathing in and breathing out. And so work breathes. So work is just the alternation of tension and relaxation. So when you breathe in, you're getting tense, you're doing the work. And when you're relaxing, you're not doing the work, you're letting something else do the work. So here you're working to bring the arms up, and then you relax to let the hands rest in the heart. And then you breathe in, work to bring the arms up, and then just relax to let gravity bring them down. All the time, just keeping the legs a little bit saggy. If you push too hard with the legs, it will tend to tense up the sacrum. So the sacrum is dangling down between the hips, so you're pressing the legs are pressing up into the hip bones, but not into the sacrum. The sacrum is hanging. And now when you bring, this is the important bit really, because here we're just trying to straighten out the upper back. Almost like each vertebra pops away from the one beneath it. So that the energy that comes up into the body can get across, can get into the upper spine and across the shoulders. Yeah. So you're reaching up, your spirit is and your mind are reaching up, but your body is being pulled down by gravity. So we're not countering gravity, we're not trying to fight it and work against it, we're working with it to get a stretch. Yeah? So here the whole spine is being stretched. And then so the more I go up, the more I release the sacrum down to get the whole spine stretching. Okay, so now let's just breathe with this one. So breathing in. So just feel as when you bring the arms up, effectively you're getting a little bit heavier. So it's sort of driving you into these springy legs. And then as you bring the hands down, you can come up a little bit. Just exactly the same as if you were in water. If you pushed your arms up when you're in the pool, it would push you down to the bottom of the pool. And then this would bring you up to the surface, yeah. And again, breathing in on the work phase and breathing out on the relaxation phase. So I'm breathing in here and out here. So I want the legs just to relax so that they can feel and take the work. They don't fight it. So here I'm going down just a fraction. And then here I'm coming up a fraction. And you've just got a mind that's just watching it all. Yeah, so when your sacrum goes back a bit, when your bum sticks out a bit, you don't tell yourself off. You just notice it, and that's enough to bring it back. You don't even make an adjustment. You just notice, you become aware. So the awareness, that sort of soft awareness is very healing. And it will just make natural, almost imperceptible adjustments. So all these things, it's useful to do them, you know, whilst watching yourself in a mirror. Because we often misinterpret the perceptions. You know, when we think we're vertical, we're often not here. Yeah, and just always with this sense of expansion. You're expanding out of your boundary and into the infinite, into the open. That's one word, you know, the Chinese have for the Tao, the open. Yeah, so when we open to the open, there's a sense of expansion. There's a sense that the mind, you know, slips into like a higher dimension. The mind is now part of a bigger infinity than the one you're working from. Yeah. So there's always this sense that there's a bigger infinity that includes the one that you're party to. Yeah. Okay, now let's just try bringing one hand up. So all the way up to the vertical. And then just stretch the two hands apart. So let one hand reach down the leg and the other one just reach up and just relax into it. Yeah, almost like you're hanging onto a handle up here and just letting the body hang. and just letting the spine take this natural curve. Yeah. So if you're relaxed, this hip won't come up too much. It'll just hang down. So that this part will stay pretty much horizontal. I mean, a little bit of a tilt, but it's more the bend in the spine. Yeah. This shoulder is trying to stay down, but the arm is pulling it up. Yeah. So there's always this play between what your body is wanting to do and what your spirit-directed mind is trying to get out of it. Yeah. So my spirit is reaching up, but the body is hanging down. And then just slowly just bring it the other side. And just let the two hands separate. So this one is trying to get into the ground. This one is trying to get up to the ceiling. Feel it in the middle fingers. So the middle fingers are the important parts of the hand, the most important parts. And again, just relaxing. So you just hold it for a while and it will just relax. Just breathe and allow each breath, especially each out breath, to relax the body. And just feel, what is it that's actually reaching up the arm and through the finger to the ceiling? It's your spirit. This is where you need a couple of kids hanging off you, just to make the body feel a bit heavier. And let's try one more this side. And just reach up. Yeah, so one of Heidegger's beautiful insights, he said, we only really notice things when they break down, when they stop working, yeah? Because then you have to attend to it, to fix it, yeah? So that's normally when we really pay attention to something. So it's a bit like that with the body. So here we're just doing things that are unusual, that we haven't really done before. So that it forces our attention to come to the body, to come to this thing that we just take for granted and treat carelessly. So that same care and attention that we bring to things that we have to fix, we'd like to bring that to everything, regardless of whether they're broken or not. So it's difficult because we've produced environments that are full of objects that in a sense are not worthy of our attention. They're sort of man-made artifacts that have no natural, they don't have a soul, yeah? Whereas natural objects do. Even like a man-made wooden object, you can feel it has something, which a plastic object definitely doesn't, yeah? So like when you go to an artist's studio, it's often full of natural, like natural objects like shells, leaves, bits of twig, yeah. So things of nature don't have to be beautiful, but things that have a little bit of a soul. Okay, let's try one more this side. So just reaching. So just feel the energy streaming up your arm. So it's like that endless flow is what's maintaining it up there. It's what's keeping it up. And that continuous flow of energy requires mind continuous. Yeah? Okay, and then just slowly, always mindful of everything that you do. Okay, now let's just widen the legs a little bit. And now just sort of yielding. This thing that we do to get into ward off. You want the feeling that like something has come in, like a ball has slowly come in, and I've just turned and I'm allowing it to roll around this ward off. So it's rolling around the inside of my ward off. Yeah. And so as I turn, and as I turn, the ball itself is sort of pulling me. It's pulling me with its roll. So we're just wanting to just open the shoulder a little bit more. So when I pull here, the ball comes in. Now, when it has to change direction from here to here, it's quite stressed. So it will really pull here at the shoulder and pull your arm out. You don't need to turn back again to get it to go that direction. It will just naturally roll around like this as you turn this way. Yeah. So let's try. So one. Yeah. Whoa. And then this one. So turning. Yeah, so the difficulty with ward off is that, we tend to just bring the arms up like this and it loses some of its openness in the shoulder. So to get that openness in the shoulder, it really needs to be pulled back and out and round like this. Yeah, and that's basically what this is doing here. So, and then here. Yeah, so just imagine the thing that you're yielding to is contained by your ward off. Your ward off isn't warding off. It's the great misnomer, really. Your ward off contains. Your ward off is an embrace. I'm embracing that thing that's come in. So I'll turn here. And then something has to happen to allow that ball to change direction. Yeah. So it's almost like something in you gulps. It's like almost like you're gulping from air, and that's just your shoulder opening up. Yeah, so one and ooh. So that's the heart really opening to contain the other. So get into the heart and out of the head. Yeah, it's very simple, really. Ooh. Yeah, and then the heart area just becomes really big. It feels like it's really wide and deep. And then you really have to stay down to stop yourself from becoming top heavy. So then it's like your rooting has meaning, it has function. Yeah, so we want this big heart that is very much down to earth. Like that, that of an old-fashioned farmer, not a modern farmer who's, gets the hired hands to go out and do the dirty work. Yeah, so the turn that you're doing is very similar to the turn when we were just turning like this. Yeah, it's all coming from a really local place, the middle of your sacrum. Ooh. Yes, if it makes you so open, so tender that you want to cry, and you know you've got somewhere. It's like in the old days, they used to have tear vials, tiny little stoppered vases that when you prayed and you started weeping, you'd collect the tears. Yeah. And they were meant to have like healing qualities. Yeah. Okay. So let's just bring it back. Again, just sacrum. Again, just as soon as you get the verticality here, the mind will just become more relaxed, more settled in the dantian. So we don't want that sort of heartfelt compassion to be something that makes us anxious. Yeah? So it's not an anxious concern. Yeah? It's a concern, but one that you can glow through. Yeah? So, that Tibetan thing, practice being sad without feeling sad. Yeah. So it's almost like we have a responsibility to be sad because of what we're doing to the planet, yeah, and to each other. But you don't have to feel sad. You can allow your happiness to rise up through that, but you've still got that concerned feeling, that empathy for the other. Yeah. So you don't want your empathy to make you a victim. Yeah. And in a sense, that's what, so it's always this sort of paradox. Yeah. If it wasn't, it would just be too simple. It would be so easy. We'd all be enlightened. Yeah. Like last week, it was Holocaust Day here. All these, everyone's miserable, out of duty. And all the news is just full of stories from the survivors. There aren't many people left. So all the people that are left now were children. Yeah. But every year, new stories come out. Yeah. Things that, and generally they're just ashamed. These Holocaust survivors are ashamed of allowing what happened to happen to them. Yeah. And that's what's kept the stories hidden. Yeah. So every year new ones come out. Yeah. But then, as one of my students said, actually every day is a Holocaust day. Every day there's a Holocaust of farm animals. Yeah. So every day, more than 10 billion farm animals are killed. Yeah. Just to assuage our desire for meat. Yeah. And it's that's destroying the planet. It's not the humans, it's the animals that we keep. The animals that we keep take up twice as much resources. Okay, so now let's just try, so akin to this, similar to this, but just now on this plane. So it's basically this exercise, which is just so common in Qigong. Basically, let's just try it like this first, and then we'll just get each arm going at a time. Yeah. So you're just bringing energy in and just letting it flow down your body, almost like you're washing yourself, like you're splashing your face with water and just allowing the water to trickle down. Again, breathing in as you bring the water up and breathing out as it trickles down. All the time, the sacrum is driving down. Okay, and now let's just get one at a time. So again, turning the waist. So I turn to send the hand out, and then I turn to bring it down, and then this one comes out at the same turn. Just find some way of breathing with it. And it doesn't really matter how, you can go really slowly. And if you're really getting the breaths coordinated, then you would, you'd breathe in here and breathe out here. And then you breathe in here. So you basically be going twice as slow as when you did it with both together. And then just get it so the in-breath starts as you're bringing the hand back. Yeah. So I'll breathe out here. So now it's very much a yield. Yeah. You're bringing something in and letting it pass you by. And then you want to feel that in-breath as being a tightening in the belly. So it's the reverse breathing. So breathing through the small hole again. So as I breathe in, it tenses the belly, especially that side of the belly. Remember we did this a few weeks ago? I haven't been able to look at it since. So, pull. So feel the power of the yield, how the yield pulls. It pulls the world, assuming I'm connected to the world. So one and pull. One and pull. Okay, now we'll do the same thing, but we'll do it with walking, yeah? So let's just bring it back to here. Again, sacrum relaxed. Yeah, so we have to be careful that when that feeling of, when you relax, that almost like a slump, that's not really right. I mean, it may be useful to get you with a feeling of relaxation, but just feel your spine, because you can feel the bottom of the spine, the sacrum, the lumbar spine. And then when the lumbar spine comes up, is your spine bulging back there? And if it is, then you just need to straighten that up a bit. If you're tall, like me and Dave, then it'll be difficult, So you're much luckier if you're short. Yeah, because the spine is much more manageable. And you won't get a bad back when you grow older. If you grow older. Okay, now let's try it just with walking. Yeah. So just as you reach out with the hand, just reach out with the foot as well. And then pull. So it's just our walking with the pulling foot and pull. So I'm using that yielding action, not just to bring the foot and the hand in, but to move me forwards. And just try and be honest. So just try and make sure that your movement of your body comes from that pulling leg. If you get it, then the leg pulling will pull this under like this, and your head will want to stay behind. Yeah. So you'll have to pull quite hard to get your whole body moving. And then here we're reaching with the hand and the foot, and then just roll it in. So it's just like climbing a rope. You're sort of abseiling up. And again, if you can, just get that part of the belly here, just get that tightening a little bit. Yeah, so it's like the stimulus, the sort of spark of tension, which is what spirit is, to get the whole thing started, is that tightening, that very subtle tightening in that side of the belly. And just turn it into a meditation. So get your breathing with it. Exactly the same breathing we had when we were doing it without the walking. So you breathe in as you pull. You breathe out as the foot and the arm go out. You breathe in as you pull yourself forwards. Then you breathe out to step. Yeah, so you're just really holding the weight back as long as you possibly can, so that it's all coming from the breath and that the belly curling up on itself a little bit. So. I was reading Ursula K. Le Guin, the children's author, who's dead now. She died about 3 years ago. And she did a lovely translation of the Tao Te Ching, because she was a Taoist and she did Tai Chi. Yeah. And she described the Tai Chi walk that she learned. And it was, from her description, it was basically this, but without the pulling of the foot. So graceful. So graceful doesn't just mean beautiful, it means you're full of grace. And that fullness is there's this excess that's, you're casting off yourself all the time. Yeah. So when you're at your best, the world is very much a more beautiful place. And when you're at your worst, you'll be better off dead. Or the world would be better off if you're dead. All the neighbours are going, those people shouting outside, they're all just leaving the synagogue. So they have grace, you know, the religious Jews. I mean, they look peculiar with their ringlets and their pale skin and their funny hats. But there's always like an excess spilling out of them. And when you see kids playing in the street, they're always religious kids, because the bourgeoisie don't let their kids out anymore, do they? It's dangerous. The streets are dangerous. So Israel is weird because the poorest neighborhoods are also the safest because they're religious. Because the poorest people in Israel are not the working class, they're the non-working class, the religious people. So they don't work, they just pray all day. If you're a man, and if you're a woman, you just bring up the kids. So the women work really hard. So there's a sense always of sort of losing yourself in the energy. Yeah. Okay, let's just bring it back. So just feel how it, you know, feel how different you feel because of that walking. Yeah. So you should feel a lot softer, less well-defined. It's more difficult to feel whether this is vertical or feel anything really, because it all feels a little bit woozy. So it's now Pentecost. So for the Jews, that's really important. So it's like every day is a holy day at the moment, the next 7 weeks. let's leave it there.